Thank you everyone for joining us for the final module for Integrated Community Supports. In this module, we will focus on coaching the individuals we serve to their level of independence to freely live, learn, work, and play in their communities. I'm Renata Smith, Habilitation Supervisor.
And I'm Kathy Zielinski, Speech-Language Pathologist.
Really quickly, let's review the approach to Integrated Community Supports. Discovery and exploration is the starting point to the entire process. We dedicated Module 2 to this stage and discussed it in great detail. The second stage is routine selection. In this stage, we decide on the identified routine and establish the competencies. The third stage is skill acquisition. This is where the learning begins and our role as coaches becomes more evident and most important. In the final stage, analysis and reflection, we then see what we've learned throughout the process and what are the next steps. Remember, throughout the entire process, most importantly, we're looking to establish those relationships within our own community. As we move forward into coaching our individuals, there are numerous things to consider in the planning process. We want to make sure to plan for success. This would include preparing the team, preparing the individual, considering the person's learning style, thoughts about different ways to approach a person, and being aware of the group dynamics. Preparing the team. This includes using a consistent approach. All of the team must be working toward and supporting the individual in obtaining their desired outcome. Communication is key. This includes the individual, support administrator, day program provider, residential provider, guardians, and family. It is also important that everyone is aware of their role throughout the process. Planning for success is ongoing, and the support administrator should be made aware of any new developments along the way. This will allow for needed plan updates and assist in ensuring that everyone has the same information. Consider the individual's wishes and desires. This includes what is important to and for the individual to be successful. As a team, discuss and problem solve barriers and identify ways that each team member can assist the individual in living the life that they want to live. Preparing the individual. Remind the individual where they're going and what they're going to see or do once they get there. Go over the steps. What will they do when they arrive? This is a perfect area to pull out the competency modeling videos and review the process with the individuals. Review expectations. This includes the expectation of the individual regarding the outing or the activity, as well as our expectation of them. Practice what the individual will say. This includes greetings and how they will express their needs and desires once at the location. Be aware of and make sure that you work within the learning zone. We will talk more about this in the presentation, but this is where the individual is gaining independence, but also enjoying the activity.
Consider the individual's learning style. Are they an auditory learner, a visual learner, or a kinesthetic learner? Think about your own learning style. How do you learn best? We all take information in and learn using a combination of modalities. However, each of us has a style that serves us best. An auditory learner does best when information is spoken to them and may benefit from hearing key words or phrases repeated. You may need to reduce the number or complexity of the words, use a different tone of voice, or speak louder or softer to keep their attention. Is the person a visual learner? Do they do best when they see a task list? The list or steps to perform an activity could be presented as printed words or pictures. A visual learner would benefit from watching a video model. They could watch the video in the day center, at home, or even in the vehicle on the way to the community activity. Or is the person a kinesthetic learner? If you demonstrate an action, does the person repeat the action? You may not need to say anything or show them pictures beforehand. An example of this style of learning in the community could be seen at the rec center. You swipe your membership card to gain entry, or go through a sequence to get your locker and your tennis shoes on, and the individual follows along and repeats your actions right there in the moment.
The final step that we will discuss with regards to planning for success is the group dynamics, considering what makes for the most comfortable outing for all involved. The number of people, smaller groups, no more than 4, are best so that you are able to identify the reactions of the individuals. We want to make sure to create a balance of the individual's needs along with their desires for the outing. Compatibility and rapport. This includes being between the individuals as well as between the staff and the individuals. How would you feel if you were going on an outing with some people that you may not particularly enjoy being around, or other people who don't enjoy the same outing as you do? Also, we want to consider the interest. Think about making it equitable for all of those that are involved and for everyone's interests, such as going to the park. One person may want to go for a walk, one person may want to listen to the water, and another may just enjoy being out in the sun. It's always important, though, to remember that pre-planning definitely helps to make for a smooth transition on the outing as well as for a smooth outing. Participation in the activity is the result of good planning. Once at the destination, encourage the individual to be an active participant. Ways to encourage our individuals or engage them can include direct instruction. Go get your shoes, please. An invitation. I'm going to get my shoes. Would you like to come with me? A question. Can you please go get your shoes? Or give the individual a choice. Would you like to get your shoes or your ball first? Now that we've ensured engagement, our role as coaches begin. We start to assist the individual in learning these new skills to participate to their highest level of independence. Some of the steps to skill acquisition include establishing the routine and competencies, being aware and working within the learning zone, increasing our expectations as well as the individual's expectations, and using our resources in our toolbox. The first step, as mentioned, to skill acquisition is the routine selection. Based on the choice of activities that a person has made, the routine is developed. From there, we need to develop our competencies. If you think about your life, everything that you do has an established routine. We may not look at every step involved in our lives, but for the purpose of coaching, it is important to thoroughly think through the entire process. This way, we can identify where our individuals may need further assistance, or we as support staff can take a step back. Our competencies are those skills that are needed for a person to be an active participant in a chosen routine. Let's take a few seconds to look at the routine for bowling and some of the competencies related to that. In its simplest form, we have about 9 competencies listed here, which include getting to the building, ordering and paying for your game and your shoes, finding your lane, setting up your game, taking your turn, and then also leaving. We will explore this routine a little bit more later in the presentation.
Be aware of the learning zone. When a person is motivated and can be successful with your intervention, he or she is in the learning zone. They're in that sweet spot where they're ready to receive information and to grow from there. It's not too easy for them, but it's not so hard or so difficult that they become frustrated and shut down. Through observation, notice what the person is able to perform independently within the routine and what they need help with. That's why it's really important to break the routine down into separate competencies so you can see just where the struggle may start to take place. If the person can complete each competency at the beginning of a routine independently, it's okay to just let them go through that and then focus in on the area where the person needs some assistance. Where is it that you can insert your coaching, and where can you step back and let them be the leader? When you step back and let the person take the lead, you're demonstrating that you have high expectations of that learner out in the community. And research has proven that having high expectations of individuals actually contributes to learning and knowledge acquisition. So wherever you can take that step back and you can let go of some of your previous knowledge of how that person may have performed in their day program and just see how far they can take it, it's an opportunity for you to watch them grow. Don't forget to use accommodations that can increase the person's active participation and independence in the community. Just like you wear your glasses to be able to see those small labels on the grocery items in the store, or you bring your shopping list in your phone, we need to think about what accommodations will help the individual you're supporting in the community to be successful. Whether it's an app on the phone that can help them keep track of what they need to do first and then next and what happens after that, or even to house a social story to help them feel more comfortable in a new situation. That's one thing to think of, but think about ways that people might be able to speak more independently. It could be a single button, like you see there with the yellow circle, and the person presses that to place their order without anyone speaking for them. Or it could be their very specialized communication device that has many different messages that could assist them in the community. Think about all of these, bring them with you, but don't forget to practice with them before you leave for the community outing. It can also be something as simple as a gift card for somebody who can't handle cash and can't make change. Let's give them a gift card when they go out to the movie theaters.
We've discussed some of the tools for success for our individuals. Now let's discuss some of the resources and tools that we may use to be successful coaches. Professionals in any field collect tools to help them to perform their jobs efficiently and effectively. These tools are instructional strategies that support learning. Examples of those are modeling, chunking, and visual aids.
Coaches are not on the sidelines like soccer mom. Coaches give support during the learning process in the moment, which is tailored to the needs of the learner to help the learner acquire skills and abilities they would not be able to obtain on their own.
Modeling can be done as the routine in its entirety or as separate competencies. There are different forms of modeling, which include real-time, video, and pictures, to name a few. Kathy provided a great illustration of real-time modeling with her example of staff and the individual at the rec center. The staff provided their ID, and the individual followed and did the same. Video modeling can be done at different stages of the process, such as for assistance with prepping prior to leaving for the outing, during the outing to assist with certain competency points where the individual may still need more support, and once you return from the outing as a review. Pictures are also a great form of visual models because they assist with recall of information, or you can use them to make it fun and turn learning into a great game. The Cuyahoga County Board of Developmental Disabilities has developed video models of common routines in the community, such as sit-down restaurant, recreation center, and bowling. Please refer to the Cuyahoga BDD YouTube channel to view all. Coaching tool number 2 is chunking. This is where we reduce the long strands of information and make them more manageable. Breaking down the competencies into mini steps. Finding a lane and putting on shoes is the first chunk, and then the mini steps are all of the other things that it takes to meet the entire competency. This allows us to see where the individual may be having a harder time in the process, as well as where they are succeeding, and we can take a step back as support.
Another effective coaching tool to keep in your toolbox is the use of visual aids. Visual aids can help all of us to remember what we need to get, what we need to buy, what we need to do next. You can find images in so many different ways. There's commercial software like you see in the bottom picture, but it can be pretty easy to find the real photos of the items or real photos of people engaging in activities in the community from the app that belongs to that store or that restaurant or that center, Google Images, or even using pictures from the newspaper. You can make these images and these visual aids pretty easily and then utilize those as a way to subtly coach somebody in the situation, pointing to a symbol, gesturing towards that symbol to help them recognize what they need to do next. And don't forget about objects. It's okay if somebody's not recognizing pictures or printed words to take an item from a place that you've been, such as McDonald's or Burger King. Bring back a cup or a napkin, something that has the logo on it, and then you can in turn use that as a visual aid to help subtly coach that person in the situation to make some decisions or to ask for something on their own. We provide prompts to assist individuals to participate in community activities and routines. Prompts are basically different levels of support. The focus of prompting is to support the individual to be as successful, independent, appropriate, and actively engaged as possible, and to do so in a way that is least intrusive, most empowering, most effective, and most respectful. There are different types of prompting. Some are seen as more intrusive or invasive, and other prompts are much less invasive. We always try to use the least amount or lowest level of prompting. The level of prompting doesn't matter as much as the appropriateness for the individual, and the situation, and the manner and spirit in which it is provided. Let's review the different kinds of prompts and take a look at some examples that show how they can be used for a particular skill, using a napkin in a restaurant. Natural cues, independent. The person independently uses his or her napkin when needed without any prompting from staff. Nonverbal. Use a sound or a glance to cue the individual. Clear your throat to get their attention, and then look at the napkin. Positional. Place the napkin in a location where the individual is likely to pick it up and use it. Gestural. Point to the napkin or to your face to cue the individual to wipe their mouth. Verbal. Say something to the individual. Now that can be indirect, like, hey, there's some ketchup on your mouth, or direct, like, you need to wipe your mouth. Modeling. You take your napkin and wipe your own mouth and then look expectantly at the person. Physical. Give the person a napkin and provide physical assistance, which could be anything from a tap to gentle guidance to hand-over-hand assistance. And finally, the most intrusive, total physical assistance. When you have to perform a task or part of a task for a person, do this in a very respectful manner, speaking to the person about what you're doing, such as, there's some ketchup on your mouth, let me get that for you. Keeping in mind, respecting the person's individuality. Let's take a look at prompting as it happens in a real-life situation. Steve works with Kevin, who is learning to wash tables at his day center, as a step towards more independence in the community. I asked Steve to break it down as to how he has been assisting Kevin to progress in his learning, and here's what Steve had to say.
I indicated to him, okay, you gotta get the entire table. I actually did one. Like if you miss like some water, I could point to the water spot. I said, hey, see, you missed this, and you gotta go back and get it. One of the things I've done with it, in the beginning, I used to just get the rag and the stuff myself, but he knows where the rags are, and the box has the clean ones. But he knows where that stuff is, and if he needs to, he can go and get that.
Take a moment and think to yourself, what kinds of prompts was Steve giving to Kevin? Here's what I heard. Steve gave a verbal prompt. He told him to wipe the entire table. Steve did some modeling. He did it himself, washed the table and had Kevin watch and then do it next. Steve gave gestural prompts. He pointed to water spots where Kevin had missed with the rag. And there's a positional cue or prompt that happens in the building because there's a certain box with the rags and now Kevin knows independently where to go to get those rags. Here are some things to keep in mind when using prompts in integrated community settings. As much as possible, try to use prompts and cues that are as natural and normal as possible, rather than contrived or artificial. Think of the individuals when they're out with you in the community more like your family and friends. Be respectful and see yourself as their partner rather than just their staff. Less is more. The more we do for people, the less they may do for themselves. If we are constantly providing some kind of prompt, people may begin to depend on us to provide them cues for everything, and we set up a kind of a learned helplessness situation. Give the person a chance to go with the flow. Pause, wait, then prompt again, or try a different kind of prompt if necessary. And finally, think of the community as our classroom. We need to remember that we are supporting people so that they can take an active role in routines and community settings. When we are with individuals in the community, we should try to use the most natural or normal strategies as we can. We can always practice in structured settings to prepare people for things that they will do when they are in community settings.
We've established the how-to of coaching to independence. The next step is analysis and reflection. How is the participation going? What's going well? What isn't? Has the individual mastered their level within a routine? Is the coaching that we're using appropriate and effective? What adjustments, if any, need to be made? And what are the next steps? Do we continue with the same routine? Has the individual changed their desire and want a different routine? And then we must identify how do we problem solve those identified barriers. Once we've completed analysis and reflection, we can establish a plan to fade. This should also include the team where needed to discuss and problem solve any identified barriers. Don't expect us to be perfect. We are working with people, and even the best players sometimes have bad games. Make the most of every opportunity, and each time you work on a routine is an opportunity for learning and gaining independence. Always use these as times to encourage and recognize progress. We must also reevaluate frequently and use accommodations as needed. Accommodations may be needed on a temporary basis to assist in learning a skill, or long-term based on physical and cognitive needs. Some examples of accommodations are assistive devices, bowling ramps, pictures, and increased pre-planning for activities as needed. Michaeline and her participation in her Fun and Fitness Over 50 class is a great real-life example of fading. Michaeline started the class and she was very shy, and she didn't interact much with others there or here in the day program. She would follow the staff through the door and even wait for staff to set up her exercise items and look to staff for reassurance of the next steps. I was so excited the day that I went to the class, and Michaeline was my leader. She showed me where to go, she showed me where the restroom was, and I was so happy to watch her as she interacted with others in the class, gathering her needed equipment and participating in the class like a pro. She now has a community friend, and they enjoy time together on the weekends. Other helpful tips for fading include utilizing natural supports at the activity site. Other participants in the activity may naturally step in to assist the individual in participation. Using different levels of fading throughout the routine is an important part of learning. Provide support to the individual throughout the process when needed, and remove yourself and allow the individual to independently complete the steps they are able. Also, we should slowly reduce the supports provided and watch that the individual maintains that level of independence. This includes reducing our intensity from total physical assistance to the least restrictive form based on the individual's needs, and reducing our frequency from multiple prompts to total independence. Remember to fade support, but continue to give encouragement and feedback. Fading contributes to community membership, but what does community membership look like? It is different for everyone. For example, in the community, people don't ask you as staff what the individual wants, but they ask the individual directly. Community membership is also when people enjoy and encourage the individual's company and miss them when they are not there, which includes the individual taking an active role in making choices, interacting in the community, and making their desires known.
Not everyone will achieve complete independence in the community, but they are independent to the best of their ability. Their accommodations may always be needed. However, they get more of their support from their partners in the community setting, their fellow bowler in the bowling league, the sales clerk in the store, or their peer in the knitting group. This concludes our last training on community integration. We would like to thank our community partners who contributed to the development of this final module. Thank you to Koinonia Enterprises, Piece by Piece of Cleveland, and New Avenues to Independence. And most importantly, we'd like to thank you for listening.